Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka your friendly neighbourhood spoiler man, and with season 2 of The Boys wrapping up, I thought I'd go through the entire thing again and give you 52 of my favourite details and Easter eggs from the series. Obviously there will be heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to check out the season yet, then I highly recommend that you check out now. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for videos like this every day, and please drop a thumbs up if you enjoy the breakdown. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into our list. Okay, so our first Easter egg comes in episode 1, right at the beginning, when we see the statue of the Seven being corrected to now include Starlight instead of Lamplighter. It really burns me up inside, and outside for that matter, but the creative team confirmed that this was actually a reference to the statue at the end of Avengers Age of Ultron, which appears in the credits scene of that movie. It's not long until we're at Translucent's funeral, and we can see a completely clear casket for the character. There's a lot of irony to the proceedings, as the corporation are not being transparent about what really happened to him, and instead they blame his death on the cartel super terrorists named El Diablo. They're using his death as a platform to announce their war on terror, which they will use to push Compound V. The song Starlight sings is also available on Vortify, showing that the corporation have their hands in absolutely everything. They're almost like some multinational corporation that also make a streaming service of songs and will soon be running the world. We also learn about Citizen Starlight, which is a show that will be releasing on Vought Plus, a play on Disney Plus. Not long after, we cut to Huey and Annie in their respective hideouts, and we can hear the song Pressure in the background by Billy Joel. Joel has numerous songs that appear throughout the season, including Only the Good Die Young, We Didn't Start the Fire, and a lot more. In episode 8, we learn that Huey loves him so much because it reminds him of his mother, who used to play the artist when he was a kid. However, if you cast your mind back to season 1, you may remember that just before Robin was hit by A-Train, the pair were also talking about Billy Joel. I kinda think that Joel reminds him of the good times before his life went to hell, and this is why he constantly plays his music. On the flip side of this, Mother's Milk often wears hip-hop group t-shirts throughout the series, and though we don't learn why this is throughout, he only really wears groups instead of solo artists. Huey initially only wears solo artists, but towards the end of the series he starts to wear groups such as Journey and Fleetwood Mac. This could showcase that he has stopped working as an individual and decided to become part of the bigger whole, so give the lad a hug, he deserves it. Now on top of this, Billy Joel has an album called Stormfront, which nice little tying together there with the big villain of the series. Starlight and Huey meet on a train, and we can see someone reading a newspaper with Billy Butcher on the front. On the back, in the sports section, is a picture of Shockwave, and it states that he's set a new speed record. Shockwave actually ends up replacing A-Train in the 7, and this is a nice little bit of foreshadowing that's set up really well here. We also see a poster for the Church of the Collective just behind Huey as he's standing up on the train, and this group of course become very important to the Deep. Now speaking of the Deep, when he's having a meltdown at a water park, he mentions swimming in the Mariana Trench. In the Aquaman movie, this was a massive scene, and with him being so close to the character, I think that it was intentionally put here. Now after Rainer's head explodes, the boys panic and drive away from the scene, which is where they say, "Who do you know who can do that?" and Frenchie replies, "No one." This is when we cut to Victoria Newman on TV, which gives a little subliminal hint that she's actually the one who carried it out. Shoutouts to Screen Crush for spotting that one, very good work. Now in the office, Edgar mentions Soldier Boy, who we see a statue of in episode 7, just before Stormfront and Homelander's rally. Soldier Boy is going to be played by Jensen Ackles, and he will appear in the upcoming season as one of its main villains. The episode also features Annie sitting on a bench, and throughout the series, benches have been an important place for her, and this is actually where she met Huey in both the first season and comic. The season also ends with the two meeting up at one, so it's nice to have this motif constantly popping up throughout the series. Jump over to episode 2, and we see the Girls Get It Done slogan for the very first time. This of course appears in the 7 movie, and also in the finale when the girls kick the crap out of Stormfront. Stormfront also has a lightning symbol for her earrings, and this was used not only by the SS, but also as a symbol of fascism in general. This of course gives us a clue that she has a secret agenda, and in addition to this, Stormfront.org is actually a neo-Nazi website whose original domain was liberty.net. Huge shout outs to the creative team for lacing the show with such deep Easter eggs, and the Deep also has his gills sing "You Are So Beautiful to Me," and this was done by Patton Oswalt, who is a big fan of the comics. Look, maybe the Easter eggs aren't all that good, yeah, but we're trying. Now at Rayna's funeral, we see that instead of flowers, Billy has brought some lovely fruit, and this is a callback to season 1 in which Rayna brought up the time that Billy sent her some edible arrangements as a gift. Nice. Now Homelander visits Ryan, and when he's in bed the character gives him a V-phone, which is of course a play on the iPhone, further showing that Vought are an evil corporation that want to take over the world. Cut to a terrorist looking at a picture of the Brooklyn Bridge, and this is another nod to the comics, as in that the Seven crashed a plane into it on 9/11. The plane scene in the series riffed on this quite a bit, but in the comics it went above and beyond that, with having the Seven basically cause one of the biggest disasters in human history. In episode 3 we see the director of the Seven movie, Dawn of the Seven, going through the storyboards. Dawn of the Seven is of course a play on Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and the movie itself is sort of satirising both the Avengers and Justice League. As mentioned earlier, this film pops up throughout the season, and I love at one point how there's a mention of a Joss rewrite. Joss Whedon was brought on to replace Zack Snyder on the Justice League movie, and well, if you've been following our channel, then you must know how we feel about it. Now Hans Zimmer is also mentioned in this scene, and he was of course the composer that worked on Man of Steel and BVS. In episode 4, we see his doppelganger impersonates Madeline Stillwell, which is a callback to when the character did it in season 1. Doppelganger gives Homelander breast milk at one point, and this episode is called Nothing Like It in the World, which is also the name of the issue that centers around Mother's Milk origin story, which we sort of hear about in this entry. In the comic counterpart, we learn that Mother's Milk had to pretty much drink his mother's breast milk to survive, and I love the way that they've kind of tied it all together for this episode.
Breast milk, you made my day.
Homelander and Doppelganger watch Taxi Driver on TV, which culminates in a man going on a murderous rampage inside an apartment block. At the end of the movie, he's labelled as a hero, even though, as an audience, we know that he's a complete maniac. Now I think that this is actually a nod to Stormfront, who in the prior entry too destroyed an apartment block and was labelled a hero after it. The film also has the main character coming face to face with himself, which Homelander does at the end of the episode when Doppelganger impersonates him. We went over this whole thing in more detail, as well as the similarities in our episode 4 breakdown, so definitely check it out after this if you're enjoying the list. In that video, we also discussed how Annie revealed that she has a knot in her stomach whenever she walks around Vought Tower, because she worries that Homelander could kill her at any moment. In the elevator, this is realised as Homelander almost twists her stomach open, and we see as her fears become realised. At the vending machine, Annie also says that her favourite chocolate...
Did you say chocolate? Chocolate!
Her favourite chocolate bar is Almond Joy, and later this is used to defeat Black Noir due to his nut allergy.
With or without nuts?
I loved how Annie's favourite chocolate bar was probably his least favourite, probably everyone's least favourite, and the show kind of takes a dump on it throughout most of the season. There's also a moment where Black Noir talks to a Vought tech to try and locate Billy, and she offers him an Almond Joy, and he just holds up a bin, which she then has to drop the bar into. Never had one before, but I'm not rushing out to get one, let's be honest. Now when Annie, Huey and Mother's Milk are on their road trip, they spot a Homelander painting where he has a Confederate flag for a cape. We later learn that Liberty operated in this area and carried out several racially based attacks, so it could be possible that she fueled racial tension in the area. Now in episode 5, Homelander shows up at a protest, and we see that Victoria Newman is leading it. This is massively unexpected, and Victoria doesn't take her eyes off him, just in case she needs to take him out. In the crowd, we also see a sign for Vought lied, people died, which is a play on the slogan Bush lied and people died. This has recently been adapted to discuss Trump's handling of COVID, and his name instead of Bush has trended on Twitter a couple of times this year. We catch Ashley watching this, and some of her hair starts to fall out, and this is a callback to the comics in which the same thing happens to a Vought assistant who's stressed out about her job. Stormfront also talks about the Church of the Collective to A-Train, and we see the name Storefront on her cup. I can't even begin to explain the amount of times I've been writing a script, and I've typed that in by mistake, so I'm guessing that it happened when writing this show too. We also see the Deep's wedding, which we learn was set up by the Church of the Collective. The Deep is pretty much riffing on Tom Cruise, who's very much seen as the face of the religion. There's been a long unsubstantiated rumour that Cruise is gay, and that his marriages were shams, which this seems to be playing upon. The Church of the Collective appear throughout the season at multiple points, and their book Destinations has a cover on it, which is clearly pulling on the novel Dianetics by L. Ron Hubbard. They also drink Fresca, and this is an ongoing joke with the creative team, who say that it's a very awful soft drink. Again, not had it, so can't comment. We see Brave Maeve being pitched, and the marketing team behind this are called Seth and Evan, which is a nod to Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, who are behind the show. We're also introduced to Lamplighter, played by Shawn Ashmore, and this is sort of a play on his role in the X-Men, in which he played Iceman. This character is Iceman's opposite, more similar to Pyro, and it's a nice little mirroring of the past. We also learn in this episode from Mallory that Frenchie killed a hero called Cold Snap, who was pretty much the boys' version of Iceman. In episode 6 we go to the Sage Grove Center, and we see the character Love Sausage, who featured in the comics as an ally for the boys and was known for his love sausage. Lamplighter gets a lot of screen time this episode, and we see that his staff is very similar to the Green Lantern's power battery, which is a nod to the comics in general, and how he looks. He looks terrible. In episode 7 we see Lamplighter and Huey watching some movies, and one of these has Jack from Jupiter in it. This is a character from the comics that's riffing on Martian Manhunter, and he was originally part of the Seven, though we don't know what happened to him here. Homelander also appears to be banging someone's wife whilst they watch on, and this is of course a play on how he did the same thing with Becca, whilst Billy had to deal with the repercussions of it. At the end of the episode we see a lot of heads popping off, and this is actually a reference to the comics, in which several soups were given modified versions of Compound V that, if triggered correctly, would cause their heads to explode. Billy actually carried this out, and it was an amazing moment early on in the run. In episode 8 we catch Ryan going through all the states in the US, and this could be a nod to Soldier Boy in the comics, who also does the same thing. It is possible that he will actually end up taking the mantle, as in the original work we did discover that there were 3 versions of the character. Early on in the episode we catch the boys preparing to fight the soups, and amongst some of the chemicals we can also see a Snickers bar, which I'm guessing would be used on Black Noir. There's also a news report that says Stormfront has been connected to Jeffrey Epstein's death, and I don't believe the bloody fake news. When Becca dies, it's at the hands of Ryan, aka Homelander's child, and in the comics her fate is sort of the same way, however it's far more extreme, in that the fetus inside her powers itself out of her stomach and can be seen floating above her dead body. Yikes. The episode ends with Homelander beating himself up on the edge of the Chrysler building, and this scene was originally filmed for the first season, but it was cut for being far too vulgar. In the comics, a similar scene happens with the Soup staring out over the city, saying that he can do anything, and this is where he really goes off the deep end, and therefore I can't wait to see what happens with him next time. Anyway, that's the list, and obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on the season, and if there's any Easter eggs that you think should have made it. I know a lot of these have probably been pointed out either by myself or by other channels, but I thought I'd just put together a list of my 52 favourites so you can see how nuanced the show really is. If you enjoy this video and want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our Season 3 Theories video, which is going to be linked at the end. We discuss all the big ones, so it's definitely worth checking out if you want to know more. Don't forget, we're also giving away 3 copies of the Marvel Phase 1 box set, and all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below. The winner's going to be chosen at random on the 30th of October, so make sure you get involved. If you want to support the channel and get to see content early, then please consider clicking the join button below. You can also come chat to us on the Discord server, linked in the description, or at Heavy Spoilers on Twitter. Thanks for making it until the end of the video. You've been the best, I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.